Welcome to this Python preprocessing tutorial. In the previous tutorial, we have explained some of the preprocessing steps that we have implemented on our dataset. So we imported our libraries, we imported the dataset, we separated between the independent variables and the dependent variables, and we also dealt with missing values by using the mean strategy. In this tutorial, we're going to know how to deal with categorical data. As you may know that many machine learning algorithms, or at least some of them, expect to receive numerical values, such as the simple linear regression. So if you have in your dataset, such as the one demonstrated here, if you have in your dataset the variable country, then you have to encode it. So your machine learning algorithm can be able to take it as an input, okay? And we also have to keep in mind that we have the country and purchased as two categorical variables. However, country has three categories of data or three unique features. We have France, Spain, and Germany. However, in purchased, we're going to encode it in a different way because the number of features is only two. You have either yes or no. So let's get started. The first thing that we have to do, as always, is to import our libraries. So from sklearn, what we do is that we import one hot encoder. And then we also need to import another library from sklearn.compose import column transformer. Okay, now the next step is that I want to initialize a variable called label encoder underscore x. And what it does is that it will take this library, which is column transformer, and you can see here that column transformer takes many inputs, and as always, we'll focus on a couple of inputs. We'll focus on the transformers and the remainder. So the transformers here is going to be an array. It's going to be taken, this first parameter is going to be taken as an array. So the first thing that we do when specifying our transformers is that we open two brackets and then we say that, okay, I need to give it a name. So you can call it anything. You can call it one hot encoder, for example, or encoder, okay? So it's just a name of type string. And then the second input is going to be the transformer itself, okay? So that this is its name, and then you want to be able to utilize the one hot encoder library, okay? And then in the same array here, I want to specify at which column exactly will you be able to locate your categorical variable. So as we have indicated, it's at column of index 0. So remember when we specified the parameters or the inputs of the column transformer, and the first input was transformer. So this is the first input that we have here. Okay, so we have the name, we have the object class or the transformer itself, and specifying this object is going to take the column at index 0. Okay, great. And then there was a second input for this column transformer, which is called remainder. Remainder means that, okay, what shall I do for the rest of my columns? Okay, I say pass through them. So just do not do anything. Okay, so this is basically using the column transformer in order to supply the first input, which is here my transformer. I give it a name. I utilize what is the transformer. Yes, it's the one-hot encoder. And then the one-hot encoder you have to specify inside this library exactly at what index or column should you target the categorical variable. And then the second input the column transformer takes is, as you can see here, remainder, which means that what happens to the remaining columns. Then here, nothing. You just say pass through them. So once we run these 3 lines of code, but first we have to run all of this at first. And then so once we here initialize label encoder underscore x, which is my final object, I want to be able to transform it onto my independent dataset. So what happens here is that my independent dataset is in the form of a variable called x. Okay? Then what you need to do is that very simply you need to import this object, which comprises of your transformer and has its library that you want to apply. So you take it and then you say fit underscore transform. You fit underscore transform your x. However, if you run this line of code, it will output x, which is of type object. And objects are not supported here in Spider. So what we need to do is that we need to say, okay, the object that is going to be the output of that specific transformation, please transform it into an array. And the type of this array, so we specify that the type is going to be float. So it's mp.float. And then we close our bracket. So when we run this and go to Variable Explorer, you can see that the type is going to be float. Without specifying this last change, you will have here the type object. So when you click on X, it will tell you or display a message that there isn't an error. However, you can't really see the changes occurring on your independent dataset because data types of type object is not supported in Spider. Okay, so in order to overcome this, you can specify this line. So you can see here, now it is encoded into that form. So that means that in our first record, we have France. So this is France, not Spain, and not Germany. In your second data set, here you have Spain. Okay, so it's not France, it's not Germany, it's actually Spain, and so on. So this is the way that you can one-hot encode any categorical variable that displays its features having more than 2 unique values. Okay, so this is how you use the one-hot encoder. Okay, great. Now, what we have left is that we also have our dependent variable, which is purchased. And this time it's going to be different because it only has 2 unique features, yes or no. So what happens is that the form of encoding it is pretty different and much simpler. What we do is that we import from sklearn.preprocessing, import a library which is called label encoder. And then as usual, you specify a variable, which is called label encoder underscore y, and then you initialize this class object. And then simply you say, okay, I want to override the y, which is yes and no, with that object, and you use the fit underscore transform. And then you input your y. So when you run these 3 lines of code, when you go to Variable Explorer and go to y, you will see that, yes, I have 0, 1, 0, 0, and so on. So 0 is purchased no, and 1 is actually, yes, I have purchased this product. And this is actually what happens when you have, or how you would use that specific step in order to encode any categorical variable that only displays 2 unique features. Okay, so this is how simple it is. So this is the end of our, not the end, but actually we have one last tutorial, which we're going to split our data into training and testing sets. And finally, we're going to apply feature scaling or standardization of our dataset values. So see you in the next pre-processing tutorial.